What the heck is Formula One?
Pole position, strategy,
Yachts and parties.
safety car, Ferrari.
Beautiful corners.
Oh, right, okay. There's a car in front of you. Try and overtake it.
Oh, I hate you so much.
Hello, you fools. Welcome to the podcast where we hope to enhance your F1 knowledge so you can graduate from fool to expert. Speaking of expert, I am your self-appointed expert. My name's David, and with me is Skin, who is the local fool on the podcast.
Hello.
What do you think to the new intro?
Lovely.
Yeah,
real good.
good. Someone DM'd me and was like, hey, you should probably do a part of your podcast where you educate people. And I was like, oh, this person doesn't understand what we're doing here. I don't think he's listened to a podcast thing. He commented on a YouTube, Instagram video. So yeah,
okay.
Go over to the pod and listen.
Yeah.
It's stupid me telling people that on the pod. From pit lane antics to racing riddles, we're here to make you laugh, question your sanity, and question your sanity as well. You know, always got to put the and in there. Sit back, buckle up. It's time for Formula Fools. We're going to kick things off with a hot lap recap with Ryan Smith.
Cool.
I shortened the jingle, so it's not 17 minutes. It's like 6 seconds.
Woohoo.
The race is over. It's that time in the show for the hot lap recap. Let's go.
See what I did?
Yeah, sure.
I just cut it there.
Yeah. Smooth.
All right, fools. Yes, it's time for the hot lap recap of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, a race so dazzling the stewards even needed welding masks to see the action. That's right. Come on, let's get stuck in. Oscar Piastri. Yes, he is officially setting his sights on the big one. No, not Alonso's forehead. I mean the Drivers' Championship. And frankly, he's making it look quite easy, isn't he? The Aussie took his third win of the season in Jeddah, snatching the championship lead, and with it, the aura of a man who's not just here to make up the numbers. He's here to take the crown. You can practically see the confidence radiating off him, and if you listen closely, you might just hear the sound of Mark Webber and Daniel Ricciardo quietly masturbating and weeping tears of pride somewhere in the paddock. Meanwhile, Lando Norris, well, he's having a bit of an existential crisis, isn't he? For the first time at McLaren, he's staring down the barrel of being the number 2 driver. And it's fair to say he's not exactly thriving in Oscar's shadow. The new McLaren MCL 39 is a rocket ship, but it's got its quirks, especially in the front suspension, that Piastri seems to dance around with the grace of a drug-enhanced Russian ice skater, while Lando looks like that Aussie lass breakdancer who clearly lied her way into the Olympics. Yep. The result, Norris is making uncharacteristic mistakes, like his qualifying crash, and you can sense the frustration. He's still rapid, but the pressure is getting to him, and Oscar's ice-cool composure is only making it worse. Up front, the race was decided in classic Jeddah style. Drama at turn 1. Piastri got the better launch. Verstappen went off track to keep the lead, and the stewards handed Max a 5-second penalty for his troubles. Max, ever the philosopher, summed up the situation with, "The rest is what it is." Translation, I'm not mad. I'm just bloody well fuming. The opening lap was chaos further back as well, with Yuki Tsunoda and Pierre Gasly tangling at turn 4. Gasly's Alpine ended up pancaked against the wall and out on the spot, while Tsunoda limped back to the pits and then retired. And that was the only major drama though, and from there the race was settled in a tense strategic battle of wills. Verstappen led the early laps, holding up the pack as the field bunched up behind the safety car, but Piastri was glued to his gearbox. The first wave of pit stops started around lap 18 for the medium runners, with Piastri blinking first and Verstappen covering him a few laps later, crucially serving his penalty and handing Oscar the lead. Norris, starting on the hard tyres from 10th after that qualifying shunt, ran long and briefly inherited the lead before boxing for mediums on lap 35, rejoining just behind the frontrunners. Charles Leclerc put in a blinder for Ferrari, managing his tyres superbly and running long on the mediums, stopping 10 laps after most of his rivals. He used the overcut to jump George Russell and then had to fend off Norris's late charge on fresher rubber. Norris, who'd set the fastest lap on lap 41, was closing in, but his mediums gave up the ghost in those final laps, leaving him fourth at the flag, just behind Leclerc. Now, if you're a McLaren if you're not a McLaren pudding, if you are a McLaren fan, it's bittersweet. Your car is the class of the field, but your drivers are living two very different stories. Russell finished a distant fifth, struggling with tyre wear, while Mercedes rookie Kimi Antonelli backed him up in sixth. Lewis Hamilton, now in Ferrari red, of course, was over half a minute behind his teammate back in seventh. Isaac Hadjar grabbed the final point for Racing Bulls, just ahead of Fernando Alonso and Liam Lawson. Now, okay, come on, a quick shout out to Williams. Yes, I know, Williams. We all know that they've spent the last decade in the wilderness, but whisper it quietly. There's a real sense of optimism this year, isn't there? Dave, our resident Williams tragic, is probably already planning the parade. You see, Carlos Sainz and Alex Albon brought both cars home in the points, 8th and 9th, thanks to strong pace and clever strategy. And for the first time in ages, they're not just making up the numbers. You know, we're not saying that they're about to win the title or any races, but we are quietly chuffed, aren't we, to see those flashes of blue and white actually overtaking people on merit. Meanwhile, Lance Stroll, well, what can we say? He was as underwhelming as ever, finishing 16th and getting in the way of leaders, including Piastri, who lost time lapping him. Stroll's race pace was, shall we say, more Sunday stroll than Saudi sprint. But let's not say it too loudly. His dad does own Aston Martin, and we'd rather not find ourselves on the wrong end of a hostile takeover. Luckily, Skin, you're probably safe, as that Aston Martin jacket is so big, even Lawrence Stroll would struggle to find you in it. That's your Hot Lap recap. I'm Ryan, reminding you that in F1, as in life, it's all about timing, tyres, and never letting that billionaire boss catch you talking shit about his son's driving. See you later.
Ryan with some controversial remarks in there.
Okay.
Like controversial, I mean, not really, but, you know, the whole thing about masturbating was a bit odd. And also funny. I liked it.
I suppose so.
Also, no Aston Martin jacket this week, Skin.
Oh, man, it's never far away. It's just over there.
Oh, that's true. Yes, right in the background.
But yeah, I think I've got the cost per wear down maybe below the $100 mark now. So it's
just, yeah,
it's been retired.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, qualifying mistake. Ryan did mention it there. Lando clipped the wall, ended up in another wall. Well, no, sorry, he didn't clip a wall. He missed the wall, went too wide, skidded, ended up in a wall.
Yep.
Out of qualifying.
Yeah. So qualified in P10.
Yeah. Ryan described it as uncharacteristic. I don't think it is uncharacteristic. I think this is, of this season, we're seeing Lando make these mistakes. Every race this season, I don't think he's had a perfect race. Even Melbourne, where he won, he went off the track with like 10 laps to go, whatever it was.
Well, that's true. But you don't often see him crash into walls.
Yeah, but you go off in Australia, the equivalent of that in Jeddah is hitting a wall. Like there's not many runoff areas where you can go off like that.
All right.
But yeah, I don't know. I think it's just Lando being in his own head, obviously getting through to Q3 and then just trying to push really hard and just yeah. A few things happened basically on turn in. He was a touch too wide, probably carrying a bit too much speed, which pushed him off wide on the exit. And then when he put the throttle down, he had a bit of a loose rear end. And at the same time of that loose rear end hitting, he then hit the curb, which then he fully lost it and then hit the barrier. So there's a few unlucky things to put him in the wall. But it all started with him not being online and being too quick.
Yeah. Yeah. It looked like he was just going way too fast.
But yeah, apart from that, like obviously that let Max get the pole lap by 0.01, which was unbelievable. Like how tight that whole qualifying was in the last like 5 minutes. And at one point we thought George could get the pole. Like imagine if there was a red flag after George had put it on pole, that would have been unreal. To have a Mercedes starting in the lead.
Wait, like if someone crashed, there's a red flag, they don't finish.
There was 2 minutes left to go. So by the time they would have, they may have been able to get one lap in, but they may not have made the flag. So yeah, chances are George could have got pole at that point.
What? So if there's a red flag, they don't extend qualifying or anything. You just
If there's 2
That's
minutes
it.
left on the clock, there will be 2 minutes left.
Wow.
Which you could get around and do it, but the chances are slim. And Mercedes being Mercedes, they would probably send their cars out super fucking early to block the rest of them so that no one else can put another lap in. And anyone being anyone would do that.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, that was qualifying. Any thoughts on that, Skin?
No, nothing too brilliant outside of the crash. It all looked somewhat normal. Just really fine margins at the top, which was exciting.
Yeah.
I think before Max did what ended up being the pole lap, it was like the time before that when he got past Oscar was only like 1,000th of a second or something stupid, wasn't it?
Yeah, 0.01. 0.001. Yeah, it was even tighter. And they cut to Oscar in the pits and he's just sat there like staring at the screen. I mean, he's playing face all the time, even when he wins, but it was just like, oh shit, I've got a big job to do here.
Yeah, for sure. So no, that was exciting.
Okay, then to the race. You've got some things written down. I think everyone wants to talk about the turn 1 incident. You've written down something. Do you want to just like, you go with your shtick that you've got?
Yeah, well, I mean, I want to hear your thoughts, obviously, on the turn 1 incident. Max got a penalty for that.
Yep.
And the commentators seem to think it was just a clear-cut penalty. And I don't get why, essentially. It looks to me, to a fool, like Oscar he hits the apex of the corner.
Mm-hmm.
He's as far to the left as you could possibly get.
Yep.
And then he's allowed to just cruise way over to the right, like all the way over to the right-hand side of the track and leaves like zero room. Like if I just don't get why, like Max, where else is Max going to go except for off the track?
Yep. I agree with that. But the rules of racing indicate that if you're front wheel to front wheel or ahead going into the corner and at the apex, then it's your right to take the racing line. Oscar didn't go wide. He didn't slide wide. He just took the racing line. At that point, Max should have known, I've lost this corner. I need to yield. And he could have braked more. He could have come off the throttle earlier and he could have made that corner and tucked in right behind him. He didn't, and he went off the track. What he should have then done was give the place back straight away before the red flag safety car, or the steward should have given him the opportunity to give the position back immediately after the safety car had gone in. I don't think it was too fair to give him the penalty just like that. Like there was a safety car fairly quickly, but he did have enough time before the safety car to give the place back and he didn't. So yeah, Oscar did nothing wrong with his racing line. He followed the book like perfectly. He was ahead at the apex. He took the racing line. Max was the wiener. He went off the track. I understand that he didn't have enough space, but each corner is different. And on a corner like that, where it's such a tight left-hander, it's almost impossible for Oscar to be on the apex and then keep going around the corner like that. You're going to drift off wide. Like you just are going at them speeds. So that's the natural racing line. And that's all Oscar did was take that line. Max was the winner. 100%.
Why? For trying to drive fast? And
no, because he went off the track and gained an advantage for the exact reason they gave him a penalty for. He went off the track and retained first place.
Okay. He's only gone off the track because he's trying to drive as fast as possible.
Yep.
And then Oscar cuts him off.
Oscar doesn't cut him off.
He does.
He doesn't.
He does.
Nope.
Okay.
Wrong. Because that's just racing. Corner to corner, track to track, it's so different. Like you've got to take them all differently. And this corner, that was Max's fault. If it was a massive open wide corner and Oscar could have given him more space, then yeah, okay, he's pushed him off the track. They weren't wheel to wheel. Max knew what he was doing. He carried too much speed. He was never. Max's argument of he was never going to make that apex is bullshit. Max was never going to make that apex. I think if you take Oscar out that situation, Max isn't making that corner at the speeds he was carrying.
Okay. Yeah. See, I heard that counter argument, but I just don't get how you could say that. Like, we won't know what Max would have done had Oscar not driven him off the track because Oscar drove him off the track.
Didn't drive him off the track. He didn't. Like he just didn't.
Okay. And so, all right, sure. So, but I think I just don't get why the rules are like that. Because so I think the commentators were saying that Max is essentially just dive bombed down the outside, going way too fast or something, and and that's how he ended up alongside Oscar.
Yep.
And you shouldn't be able to do that. as per
No,
the rules or something.
You-
But I
you can.
guess what I'm saying is that like trying to drive as fast as possible is surely what racing is.
For sure.
Why would you get penalised for trying to drive fast down the outside? Surely you get penalised for like not trying to drive as fast in a straight line and instead driving sideways over into a car that's next to you.
He didn't do that. I fully understand that. But the problem is like, what's your intention there? Because there are track limits. So like if you know that there's a track limit there, you're dive bombing down the outside. He knows he's not making that corner. So he knows his whole thing dive bombing like that was, I'm going to go off the track and then I'm going to complain straight away and say he pushed me off when he knows he didn't. He knows that was his strategy because he knows he dive bombed. Like there's no way on God's green earth on that corner, an outside overtaking maneuver like that, you're not making it unless you're at least 2/3 of a car length ahead. And even to do that, you're then cutting in front of the other driver on the outside. Like it's just not happening.
Okay.
And that's why even later on in the race, we had, I think you might have this later on, but we had Bortoleto and Fernando do similar. Bortoleto almost cut him up, then Fernando went off the track. Fernando gave the place back because Fernando knew at the, not even at the apex, but at the point of the corner, Fernando was still behind Bortoleto, but he gained an advantage and he gained a place by going off the track. So he did the same thing. Like it was Bortoleto's fault that Fernando went off the track.
Yeah, I think I get this one even less because it couldn't have been more Bortoletto's fault. He just he just like didn't know there was a car there and just literally drove sideways. It wasn't like he even was on a racing line.
And there's a corner there's a chicane in Monza that is fairly similar. I think it's like we have like turn 1, 2, then long turn 3, and then it's into 4, and it's like a left right. And the amount of times we will see people battling side by side. And because the left-right is so fucking tight, it's even tighter than this corner, you can't go through it 2 cars next to each other. We'll see cars going straight on and rejoin the track and just cut the entire chicane, but they'll give that place back straight away because it's just known of like, you can't do that. Like it's illegal. You've gone off the track. You've gained an advantage. It doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter if you've been pushed off, which he hadn't been. He knew what he was doing. He was carrying too much speed.
Right.
He could have slowed his car, rejoined and slotted in right behind Oscar, and then he could have put a move down into the last corner or down the main straight or something, and he wouldn't have had that penalty.
Okay. That makes some sense in the Oscar one if that's like the genuine racing line. I get that even less with the Bortoletto one where he just sort of like pops out into Alonso. Like from that, in that, if like Bortoletto's just driven sideways into Alonso, Alonso has to go off the track. If you push someone off the track and then you're completely at fault and then they gain an advantage over you, surely that's just your fault. Why would you expect to get that spot?
Well, no, Bortoletto wouldn't have expected that, and Fernando did that on his own. No one would have told Fernando to do that. He did it straight away, just Fernando knowing racecraft. And he would have known like, that doesn't really matter to me. I'm going to overtake him on the next few turns. Like I'm faster than this guy anyway. Right. I'll do this just to cover myself off, just in case they investigate it. So that's just Fernando being wise. But I think if he was to have been investigated, that he wouldn't have got a penalty for that. Okay. It would have been treated very differently to the Max one.
Okay.
You happy? Or still not?
Yeah, well, as happy as I'll get.
Okay.
I still find racing weird.
Yeah, racing is very weird. There's a lot of rules and there's a lot of like asterisks on all of the rules. But yeah, Oscar did overtake Max during the pit stops because of that penalty and then went on to win the race. It was a fairly boring race, the first race of the season. We've not had, the winner has not been the pole sitter, so that was the only kind of saving grace. But after that first lap, it was down to strategy, it was down to tyres. It turns out it was down to a lot of fuel saving as well. I think before the race they said it was going to be, they were expecting it to be one of the quickest Saudi Arabian Grand Prix we've ever had, and it wasn't. I think he came in at second or something like that. But they said mid-race, like the lap times are just not as quick as we expected. People are tyre saving and fuel saving a lot, especially in them early sectors. So yeah, it was a game of chess, and you really had to just, kind of like bear with it and look for the battles instead of them being as obvious. But yeah, Oscar winning the race means that he's now the championship leader. He's 10 points ahead of Norris in second, and Max is only 2 points behind Norris in third. So it's also the first time we've had an Aussie winning the championship since 2010. But yeah, Oscar Oscar is also, I saw this morning and it blew my mind. I was like, I've got to say this on the pod. Oscar is the first person to win 3 out of 4 races in a season that isn't Lewis or Max since 2016. So in nine years, first person to do it.
Yeah, okay.
That's very impressive.
Yeah, it's impressive, but why does that blow your mind? Like,
Because
surely we all know
we
Max
know.
has been winning for ages, and then Lewis was winning for ages.
Yeah, we know that. But still, like, there were times during both Lewis and Max's domination where they weren't winning every race. They were winning most, but not all.
Yeah, okay.
And like even last season, like the McLarens won the Constructors' Championship. I would have thought we would have had like, but then, because when I saw it, I was like, there's no way. And then I was like, oh, Lando's actually only won 5 races total. That also is something else. Oscar has now won his 5th race.
Yeah, so they've won the exact same number of races.
Yeah.
Oscar's driven 50 odd races.
Lando's something like that.
Like over 100.
Yep.
So it's becoming less and less clear, the whole 1 and 2 thing, isn't it?
A lot. Yeah. It's sketchy now.
Drama.
Yeah. Beginning of the season, Lando was the favorite, like with the odds, he was the favorite to win the championship. And I'm sure after Saudi, I'm sure I read somewhere that, or maybe even before Saudi, that had changed. And now Oscar is the favorite to win the championship. So if you put if you put a bet on Oscar winning the championship before the season, you could be on here. And like you could make some big money there.
True.
If you put enough money on. I don't imagine the odds were still like phenomenal. It probably wasn't like 1,000 to 1.
It's probably like, would have been in the top 3 favorites.
I don't even think he was, I think he was like 4th or 5th.
Really?
Yeah, I'm sure Lewis was ahead of him before the season. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I'm sure Lewis was like up there, like 3rd or something.
Based on what?
Based on it being Lewis Hamilton and everyone sucks his dick 24/7.
Oh, Dave.
Yeah, sorry, I'll cut that bit out. No, I probably won't leave it in.
Dave.
But yeah, what I reckon as well to Oscar's race win here, I think we've just seen potentially one of Oscar's best races in terms of management, having a good head, but also aggression. Like we saw on lap 21, he overtook Lewis Hamilton, who is obviously the best driver on paper, certainly the best and most experienced driver we have on the grid right now in terms of championships, race wins, longevity in the sport. He overtook him on a corner that you probably shouldn't overtake on, and we didn't see any other overtakes on that corner. And it was really aggressive, really calculated. He put a lot of trust into Lewis, that Lewis wasn't just going to cut in front of him or anything. And it was a phenomenal move. And, to see the aggression with the attack there, because he knew it was time sensitive, he had to pass Lewis to be able to cover off Max's overcut with the pit stop. To see that aggression, and then later on in the race with Lance Stroll, like Ryan mentioned earlier, Lance Stroll holding up Oscar Piastri, and Oscar coming on the radio being, fairly aggressive, like this guy needs to get out of my way kind of thing. Like it's we always see calm Oscar. It was good to see Oscar with a bit of fight this week. And I think it's because he knew he could take the championship lead, and he also needed to be aggressive to make the overtakes to pass Max in the pit stop. Yeah. So yeah, it was really good to see.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, that whole thing about Oscar like trying to get past Stroll and blowing up at that, I started to see what you mean about the whole television cameras situation.
Yeah. Oh my God.
There was all this audio going on about Stroll needing to get out of Oscar's way. The commentators are talking about it. It's all like very intense. Meanwhile, we're watching just like Williams and Hadjar just cruise down a straight. Just All right, so we just touched on Williams and what they were doing there, that little train. I mean, I think the question on everyone's mind is essentially just, are Williams like the greatest of all time?
Yeah, we are.
Little double points finish. It's all happening.
I mean,
no one else gets double points finishes. No other teams do that. Just Williams.
Yep. Certainly not McLaren, Mercedes, and Ferrari in this race. And most of the races this season, if not all. Yeah. I've been saying it for years now, but especially since James came on board, and especially since Carlos was signed, I think we're gurus, and I reckon this is just people are starting to switch onto it now, and I'm like, fuck yes. It's annoying me that people were so doubtful last year, and were like, oh, Carlos ruined his career. I'm like, James did an interview last year, and in the interview, I think it was on Beyond the Grid or something like that. they interviewed Carlos and they interviewed James Vowles, and they asked Carlos, do you think this is it for you and Ferrari? And Carlos's response was, never say never. Like, I could always go back there in the future. The door isn't closed, kind of thing. Like, he left on good terms with everyone, and he fought to the end last year with the team. So, he kind of said that, and the whole like everyone was like, well, why have Williams signed him? They interviewed James about it on Beyond the Grid, and James said that he was asked about that quote, and he said, yeah, I don't blame him. Like, Ferrari at the moment are one of the top 3 teams, top 4 teams. Like, they're amazing. They've got the history. They've got all this. He said, but ask Carlos that question in a couple of years' time when we're winning and Ferrari aren't. He was like, ask Carlos that question then, because he'll rather be with Williams because he would have built something and we care about him and we're beating Ferrari. I'm not being funny. We're fucking close to beating them already. Like, Carlos out-qualified Lewis in the last 2 races in a Ferrari.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
So, I mean, come on. We're gurus.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. They do seem to have better, like, qualifying, like, 1 lap pace than race pace. Is that fair to say? Especially, what was it the Bahrain race? He was he was cruising in like 5th or 6th and then dropped
significantly. That was a weird one. I think this is quite common to what we saw last season, maybe the season before as well with Williams. Like, our car's pretty good. We just don't have a consistent car. So the moment we put fuel in it and the weight goes up and things like that in race to race, like wheel to wheel combat and things, that's where we're struggling a bit more than even some of the midfield teams. Like Alpine seem to be better at that than we are at the moment. RB and sometimes Haas are better than us with that. But yeah, in qualifying pace, I think when it's just, and we even saw it at Jeddah, like Alex was going out completely on his own to do his laps. He later said that was probably a mistake. He should have gone out with everyone else. But, we're seeing more confidence with Williams in a qualifying trim than we are in a race trim at the moment, which is great because it means like we've got some foundation and we can just keep building. But yeah, it's certainly something we need to get on top of for next year.
Okay.
Are you laughing because I keep saying we?
Yeah, exactly. Every time you talk about Williams, you say we, and I was like, you've been in their garage once accidentally.
I'm wearing an Oscar Piastri t-shirt and I've got a McLaren hat on.
You absolute pig.
Yeah.
But no, it's cool. It's exciting to see.
Yeah, it really is. Also, Williams, I need more merch. Please send me some. You also asked the question about the pit stops, the early pit stops in the race because of the safety car.
Yep. So we didn't even end up talking about it really, but also on lap 1, Tsunoda and Gasly crashed out. So that was sad for them, obviously, but meant there was a safety car on lap 1 and a couple of teams went like real early pit stop.
Yep.
Like just pitted on lap 1 while there was a safety car.
Yeah.
Would they have gained any advantage by that? What was their strategy? Like they were obviously hoping to get to the very end, and which surprisingly, I think 2 of the 3 did.
I think Doohan did, didn't he? Was it Doohan or was it Ocon and Bortoletto?
Yeah, Ocon and Bortoletto both got right to the end, I think.
Yeah, wow.
But I mean, they finished 14th and 18th, so it's like, did they gain any advantage from that or not?
No, they may have gained in the short term, but yeah, long term, 14th and 18th, they wouldn't have gained anything. It was a risk worth taking, I think, because Jeddah has a 100% success rate of a safety car. Like at every Jeddah Grand Prix, we've had a safety car.
Really?
Yeah. So like it was almost a guarantee. It still is a guarantee that you're going to get a safety car around Jeddah. So I think what they were planning on, any of the people that stopped on the first lap that was a first lap incident. A, we're going to have another restart with the safety car now. So there could be another crash straight away. Or B, it's a track where people, as you start to get tired, as the fuel comes down and the tires change and the track rubbers in, it is not easier, but mistakes can happen. I think they were banking on a mid-race or a 2/3 of the race distance safety car again to do a second stop, and that's where we would have seen them gain the advantage.
Okay.
Which is also why I think we saw Ferrari and Max, especially Ferrari with Charles, going super long on their first stint, is because I think they were just waiting for another safety car to come around, and then would have jumped a lot of people. I think that's that for me. That's the only reason I can think to why they would do that, because otherwise it was just a stupid strategy, and they didn't really gain anything from it.
Okay.
We also want to chat about DRS. You had a question about DRS.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, okay. And then DRS, not so much a question, but more just an observation. We spoke about it a couple of weeks ago. Like I don't know, you were telling me about how people sort of use it in sneaky different ways. You referenced like some race donkeys years ago.
It was this race. It was Saudi Arabia 21, 22.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, right. And yeah, we're talking about how people were like trying to stay behind at the point of DRS. And I don't know. I feel like since we've spoken about it, I just notice it everywhere now.
Yeah.
I don't understand. Like, was I just not watching the races last year?
No, we've just had two tracks that have the same DRS zone.
Right.
That's literally it. Bahrain and not the same, but like very similar, like two back to back with a one corner or two corners in between.
Right.
Yeah, like that's literally it. We may not see it in Miami. I can't think of the fucking track layout with the DRS zones at Miami. But yeah, I don't think we'll see it at Miami as much as we have done the last two. But yeah, like the 2022 Max versus Charles battle I was talking about in that episode was exactly the Lewis versus Norris battle we were seeing in this one.
Yeah.
And it was just so funny because like we spoke about it on that pod. I listened to another pod ahead of the race, and they spoke about it in that one, like, hey, remember this race? Like the DRS is going to be used. And then Norris gets around to the like penultimate corner and overtakes Lewis. And Lewis was like, thank you.
Yeah.
Like and for like two or three laps
in a row. And Lewis, he like the commentators were saying it was almost dangerous. Like he was like brake testing him to make sure he was behind just so he could then overtake him again.
The second time it happened, they showed it from like looking down the back straight before the last corner. And Lewis just moves over and opens the door, and Norris just goes, yeah, I'll take that. Yeah. But Lewis is the smart person there because he's just like, I wanted you to take that. I'm going to have the DRS like going down the main straight. I'm going to take you into turn one. And it was crazy. Like Norris obviously was faster than Lewis, but Lewis was just outsmarting him.
Yeah.
It's just one of them like that. And that's why Lewis is as good as he is. He knows racecraft and he knows how to use tracks to his advantage.
Yeah. Okay. But then later in the race, Williams were equally clever with their DRS and just use that to make sure that they were not going to get overtaken by another.
Well, Carlos did this in Singapore was it last year? No, it was in 23. Carlos used it in Singapore. He was leading the race. I think he had Max in third and Charles was in second or something like that. Obviously, he was driving in the Ferrari. And it was Carlos first, Norris in second in the McLaren, and then Max was in third. Norris wasn't going to catch or pass Carlos. He didn't have, his tires were going off. He wasn't as fast, but Max was fast enough to pass Norris and then catch up and potentially pass Carlos. So what Carlos did was he held back, even though he was in first place, he held back, let Norris get into his DRS. So Norris would have DRS to defend against Max so that Max couldn't overtake Norris. And it was like a superb strategy. And it was just, he used another team and another driver to defend the person behind that person. So amazing racecraft, amazing skill from Carlos to think about that. And then post-race, Williams spoke about this, and Alex, Carlos, and James all said, we planned this. Like we kind of knew that if we could get Alex up there behind Carlos, this could be a genuine strategy to defend from Carlos behind. And there was I think Formula One put a post out about Williams' double points strategy. I put it on my story today. And they showed all the radios for both Carlos and Alex to their engineers. And it was very early on. I think Alex's engineer said, I think we tried the Singapore strategy. And like straight away, they just all knew what was happening. And then they just, did it perfectly.
Woohoo.
So go Williams.
Good on them.
That brings us on nicely to driver of the day / biggest letdowns. The official driver of the day, I think, was Max Verstappen. Don't really know why. He had a good race, finished P2. Like, well done.
Yeah, that is strange.
That's about it.
He qualified in one, finished second.
Yeah.
Gave away a penalty that cost him the race against driver of the day.
Yeah, I didn't understand it. It was confusing. But then there wasn't a shit ton of other people on the grid. I struggled for driver of the day and biggest letdown. I feel like everyone had a somewhat of a good race. I feel like, it was just, it wasn't really a big... Yeah.
Like Norris would have gained the most positions, I think, going from 10th to 4th, but you can't really give him driver of the day just for crashing and qualifying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He was always going to make up them positions. Yeah, that's it. I went for Carlos Sainz driver of the day, just everything we just spoke about.
Okay. Well, I didn't pick a driver of the day. I picked more of a highlight of the day, the Ferrari mechanics.
I like
little 2.0 second pit stop.
Yes. That was
Rapid.
unreal.
Rapid.
Yeah. On a day when you know, you want to outshine your pit stops and fucking Red Bull are doing like 6 seconds in their pit stop or whatever the fuck. It was a really slow one. And then, yeah, Carlos just, oh no, they had the penalty. Yeah, fuck. Okay, yeah, good disc.
8-second pit stop with a 5-second penalty.
Oh, disco. That's just one of them disco mistakes. But yeah, Ferrari's 2-second pit stop. Unbelievable. Well done to them. Biggest letdown. I could not choose anyone.
Okay.
I just couldn't.
I chose whoever gave Max a penalty. I still disagree with that. So, anyway.
We're gonna be fighting over. Do you know what would be interesting is if Max is in P2 in the championship come Abu Dhabi and it's like 3 or 4 points in it. That penalty could decide the season.
Dun dun dun.
Who knows? But yeah, you need to get over it, Skin. Right. It was Max's fault. Next race, we've got Miami coming up, the Miami Grand Prix. It is synonymous with heat. Miami's a very hot place in the world. And last year, I think it was last year's Miami Grand Prix, there was so much about there not being that much shade for fans. I think someone that was working a ticket booth or something passed out because she was just out in the heat with no shade or anything.
Crikey.
It was a disaster, and by disaster I mean it wasn't really, but like there was enough stories that it was like, oh, you need to fix this next year. Yeah. So that's the number one thing I want to say. I did write in number 2, but I'm going to lead with it. Hot conditions. So hopefully that will bring high tire deg and just tough racing throughout for all of the drivers and pit crews and things like that. Like hopefully it is that brings a bit of drama. Second thing, track surface and grip evolution. It's a fairly tough surface. So again, with hot conditions, we could have a 2-stopper or we could just see tyres degrading throughout the race. Who knows? But keep an eye on that. And then the last thing I put was Miami Grand Prix was, everyone spoke last season. Miami Grand Prix was where Lando/McLaren's season truly started. That's where Lando got his first ever win. McLaren from that point on started looking guru. I don't think it's really anything to do with the Miami Grand Prix more than them bringing an upgrade and just getting on top of it. But Lando loves this track. He said last year before he even won, he enjoys racing around Miami. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. Lando could bounce back after this week and potentially get a win. Close that gap.
Wait, that was Lando's first ever win? Oh, right. So he's got all 5 of his race wins quite recently as well.
Within the last year, yeah.
Right. What did he win? He's only got 1 this year, didn't he? So what other
Australia.
3 did he win last year?
Oh, Skin, you put me on the spot.
Sorry, Dave.
I don't know.
Some of them.
He won that GP, that Grand Prix, that one. And then he won 2 other Grand Prix last year.
Yeah.
And probably another one as well.
Yeah. He won a Formula 1 race at some stage.
Yep.
Yeah,
I've got no clue. But everyone knows Miami was his first.
Okay.
Well, that's a wrap on that. Well, that wraps up another lap at the Formula Fools podcast. We hope you enjoyed the ride as much as we did. And it's now your turn to join the Fools family by connecting with us on social media. Facebook is at Formula Fools. Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok is Formula_Fools.
Absolutely. You can also leave us ratings and reviews wherever you're listening, Spotify, Apple, things of that nature. They always help a great deal if we could get it up the charts and get more people listening to our foolery.
Absolutely.
That'd be lovely.
Yeah, last few episodes have been good on the downloads. Actually, we're slowly we've been in the green for a couple of months now, so yeah, we are going well.
Just a slow little incline, you know.
Yeah,
don't need anything too rapid.
I mean, a couple of million listeners a month would be great.
Yeah, I mean, if you're offering.
Oh, that's good stuff. Thank you for joining us at Formula Fools, where every turn is a chance for a good laugh. We'll see you next time.